can get.
I think, man, we see how liberalism in this instance being illustrated in like the kumbaya, we can touch all the American people, is making it showing that you actually able to have these contradictory statements where you can say I helped all these different people in all these different industries, and it's like, now hold on, you can't help fossil fuel, natural oil and gas, and environmental justice.
Come on,
just don't go together, and it just show how, you feel me, like the selective moral outrage that come from a lot of neoliberal, minded liberal people that. Because you're right, if Trump would have done this, man, we would have had people jumping out the window talking about how much we have to preserve and think about CO2 emissions and climate change and all the buzzwords about ice caps melting. But Joe Biden did it, and we see that, in many instances, we see personality being put over policy, personality being put over the general welfare was going down, and that's just, what I'm saying, sadly, what's going on. You know what I mean? The last thing I'll say is that there is a little bit of illusion of choice going on here. We see that there is a lot of patterns between what the RNC and DNC do, and we recognize there are particular industries that don't got to give a damn about who's in office. Natural gas being one of those ones. You see what I'm saying? That being said, education is elevation, and I think that we in for some come 2024 because we have a lot of disarray and chaos that's gonna have a big impact on how people go to the polls, how much people believe going to the polls, how much effort and energy people willing to go into the polls, and then the whole dialogue that you and I gotta deal with we talking about Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or whatever social media street we gonna be on. It's gonna impact our jobs and how we're trying to raise political literacy, political, advocacy. It's gonna make our jobs hard.
It really will, Conscious, and we want more people to get involved, but people are really feeling suffocated, put upon. They don't believe that these systems work. And when you have two political parties who show very clearly that they really do not give a damn about changing or enhancing the material conditions of everyday people in this nation, it really blunts people's belief in the system or their ability or them even wanting to participate at all. There's no shortage here. They always have opportunities for the wealthiest to win all the time, the ultra wealthy, because I'm not against wealth, but the ultra wealthy win time and time again. But the people who lose time and time again, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, so far has been the everyday people of this nation. It is a sad state of affairs that we are facing right now at this particular moment in 2023 going into 2024. God knows I am expecting and praying for a miracle. Come on, American people, we don't have to accept things. Yeah,
before you move on real quick, we see how DNC and RNC has a knack of being able to put a black body in front of us and say whatever the hell they want them to say.
Black faith in high places does not mean that the system changes. Well, that is our show for today. It was so great having Conscious lead with us. So wonderful to have Attorney General Keith Ellison. Make sure you pick up his book, Break the Cycle. Sending lots of love to each and every one of you. And you know what I want you to do about this time. Always, always, always keep the faith. But baby, with that faith, if you don't know it, you got to know it. With that faith, we got to put a whole lot of fight. Until next time.
Welcome back to the Watch List. I'm Rayyvana filling in for J.R. Jackson, who is on day 3 of recovering from a wicked Memorial Day weekend hangover. I'm just kidding. He's got a cold, so send some love his way. Help him get better soon. But I'm really happy to be here with you all on the first day of Pride Month, spreading some love to my fellow members of the queer community, and to remind everybody who's not that you're obligated to be super nice to us all month long, and that includes me. So be nice to me in the comments today. And I'm really happy to be joined today by Jackson White, who's Rebel HQ contributor. Jackson, great to have you on today.
Oh yeah, it's always good when we get together. It's always a great show, you know what I'm saying? And like you said, it's the first day of Pride Month, so we got to celebrate. Actually, my girlfriend is gay too, so it's an extra special day. So I got to buy her something, maybe, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta get her.
Yeah, I gotta.
Pride Month gift.
Yeah, I'm about to have to give her some type of gift, you know what I'm saying? But no, it's just, other than that, I'm doing well, and it's good to be here. It's hot, but it's hot, man.
Yeah, it's definitely hot today where I am. I'm jealous of Emily's enjoying nice cool weather, taunting us with it. All right, but so you ready to jump into this first story?
Yes, let's go ahead and do it.
All right, everybody, we're gonna need you to watch this.
Why not take any questions from voters, Governor? Governor, how come you're not taking questions from voters?
God's coming up to me, talk to me. What are you talking about? I'm not here working with people. Are you blind? What? Are you blind?
I'm not blind.
Okay, so people are coming up to me, talking to me, whatever they want to talk to me about.
Oh, Ron DeSantis, what a way you have with people.
Indeed.
Not a good way. So Ron DeSantis snapped at a reporter in New Hampshire who asked why he wasn't taking questions from constituents, responding to him, "Are you blind?" Now, although DeSantis was casually stopping and chatting with members of the crowd on his way out, he didn't accept any questions from the audience after his speech, nor did he speak publicly with the crowd. So as you all have probably been following, DeSantis has been caught on camera getting snippy with reporters several times in the past few weeks, and lucky for you, we have that footage.
During your time at Guantanamo, did you witness any incidents?
No, none. All that's BS. No, totally BS.
Governor, did you say you were present during those meetings? Is that?
Who said that?
Detainees have told us that.
How would they know me? Okay, think about that. Do you honestly believe that's credible? So this is 2006. I'm a junior officer. Do you honestly think that they would have remembered me from Adam? Of course not. They're just trying to get into the news because they know people like you will consume it because it fits your preordained narrative.
Governor, old show you falling behind Trump. Any thoughts on that?
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes. I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
Can I just say that if someone was responsible for torturing me, I think I would remember their face and name for the rest of my life. If someone sat in the room while I was being force-fed food to break up a hunger strike and was sitting there smiling at me, I think I would remember that person for the rest of my life, no matter how much time has passed. But
facts. If there's anything, sometimes I forget like people's names. I'll be forgetting everybody's names, but you're definitely not gonna forget something like that for sure. But continue, because I'm just gonna go on and on.
Yeah, and we'll get there. But yeah. I think at this point, the hardest obstacle DeSantis has to overcome is how goddamn unlikable he is. And fortunately for all of us, New York Magazine compiled a list of DeSantis's long reported social faux pas. And let's start with this headline. He ignored a staffer during a long car ride. In May 2021, Politico reported that DeSantis is such a terrible boss that his former staffers formed a support group that meets regularly to trade war stories about their time working for him. And we'll move on, but just 1 second. I have to say that if I found out that my editors and my producers had to form a support group to talk about how awful I was, I think that would give me some pause.
Give you some type of a framework to go off of, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, right. This at least I know what I need to work on, but
Not if you're DeSantis.
No, definitely not.
But so the staffer who he ignored in the car ride spoke to Vanity Fair and said, and quoting from New York Mag, a former congressional staffer told Vanity Fair, quote, "I once had to drive him to the airport. We got stuck in traffic for an hour. He didn't say a word," they added. "I described him as having the personality of a piece of paper." And it's not just the staffers that have their complaints. His Republican colleagues also have complaints, particularly that he rarely says hi or bothers to learn their name. Trott, a Michigan Republican, reached out to Politico to go off on his former colleague's rudeness. He said, "I go to my first House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing early, and DeSantis showed up right at the gavel time and didn't say hello or introduce himself," Trott said. "And then the next hearing, the same thing happened. I think the third time it happened, I thought, oh, this guy's not ever going to say hello to me." Now, I don't think Ron DeSantis is going to become president of the United States. I don't think he's going to get the Republican nomination. I think that he is a deeply concerning person. I think that he's a potentially worse president than Trump, more scary as a prospect than Trump, because he's shown a willingness to just burn everything down. And I think that he has a level of competency when it comes to actually legislating that Trump didn't have, that makes him scarier to me in that regard. I think, though, that what he absolutely lacks, it's going to be his downfall, is political instincts and personability. This is not someone that is relatable. This is someone who's like deeply disturbed, a deeply disturbed individual that people aren't going to relate to, and you're not seeing that same sort of, I don't want to call it grassroots because I think that's a bit of a misnomer for what Trump has. But that same sort of groundswell of support that Trump.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and too, I mean, I think one of the differences is, and one of the things that I pointed out is that Trump, if you just love him or hate him, one of the things that we have to do, especially working in politics, is kind of remove ourselves emotionally so that we can just look at things from a lot of angles. And Trump's funny. Trump is charismatic. He is. If you don't hate him, he is. And even if you don't like him, it's great watching him rip people like Ron DeSantis apart. Why? Because he's funny. Because he, you know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, that is a lot of what drives the support that his base still has for him, is the fact that he's entertaining. But what you pointed out importantly is that Ron DeSantis' personality is really going to get in his way, not just in this election, but moving forward. In fact, I mean, what did Trump say? He needs a personality transplant. As far as I know, those aren't available yet, or something like that. But I mean, there was videos of him literally like wiping his nose and then touching people's shoulders. And then there was this guy who said, I drove over an hour out here to come see you. And Ron literally was kind of like, oh, thanks for doing that, and turned away. But the bottom line is that Ron DeSantis is very uncomfortable with people, and he can't hide it. And like the longer that people are in front of him, you can see the discomfort building up. And that's where a lot of that snappiness comes from, because he's trying to deal with his anxiety. He's trying to quell it. He's trying to get rid of it. I mean, the fake smiles that he does, the laughs, all of that's really going to get in the way, not just versus somebody like Trump, but also just in general, because in a leadership position, you have to have social skills. But then also policy wise, I mean, everything he has going against him, the losing battle with Disney, even if there's a Republican governor after him immediately, they're going to end that war. The 6-week abortion ban that he signed immediately after the 12-week abortion ban, his war against the queer community, his war against teachers and books, the migrant issue that's causing a labor shortage with thousands of people. And I mean, I could keep going, but I've been talking for quite some time now. So let me go ahead and be quiet.
I think that Ron DeSantis looks like an alien who's in a play about what it's like to be a person, who has no actual idea like how to communicate. Like it's as if he's never met a person in his life. Every time,
like from Men in Black, the little people in the
right,
and he just they're like, oh, like he just in there dying.
That's exactly what it is. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on what's going on with the Republican primaries. That battle's heating up, but we have to move into this next story. And before I start, I just want to say that there are some descriptions of sexual assault. So if you're sensitive to that, it might be a good time to move away from the broadcast for about the next 10 minutes. But that being said, let's get into this next clip.
actor Danny Masterson walking into a Los Angeles courthouse today. Just hours later, a stunning verdict returned.
The mood was pretty somber. It felt like everybody knew something was happening.
The one star of that 70s show convicted of raping 2 women in instances dating back to 2003 while they were all practicing Scientologists. The convictions after 6 days of deliberations, a breakthrough after a first trial ended in a hung jury last year. Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon said in a statement, "We want to express our gratitude to the 3 women who came forward and bravely shared their experiences."
The Danny Masterson trial has finally come to its conclusion. 20 years after the events occurred, Masterson has been found guilty of rape. Now, he could be facing up to 30 years in prison, 15 years for each conviction. The 3rd count of rape was stuck in a hung jury after 8 days of deliberation. Now, let's get into some more details from that court case.
It's a stunning fall from grace for the 47-year-old who rose to fame as the wisecracking best friend on that 70s show.
Oh man, see, that's why I didn't want to tell you. You need to get all after-school special on me.
The accusations against Masterson came to light in 2017, more than a decade after the alleged assaults. In 2020, the actor was arrested, charged, and posted a $3.3 million bail. At the time of accusations in the early 2000s, Masterson was one of the most visible celebrity Scientologists. The women accusing Masterson eventually left the church. During the most recent trial that began in April, prosecutors told the jury the evidence will show that they were drugged, also adding intimate details about the alleged rapes, saying Masterson dragged one accuser across the floor by her hair and sodomized another one. The defense countering in their opening statement that the alleged victims' stories are inconsistent and suggested the women colluded over time, adding that the case is people versus Masterson, not people versus Scientology.
Masterson violated his victims by slipping drugs into their drinks. And I think this tweet does a good job of summing up this case. So let's pull this up by Dara Faye, who tweeted out, "A mediocre actor and Scientology cultist has been found guilty of rape. He put drugs into the drinks of 3 women to disorient them and cause them to go unconscious so he could rape them. Meet rapist Danny Masterson, who has now ruined that 70s show for me." Now, the women were former members of the Church of Scientology, and they were afraid to speak out as the church forced them to remain silent. Daily Beast reported that prosecutors alleged that Masterson raped the women as they bounced in and out of consciousness. When the women tried to speak up after the assault, prosecutors claimed they were silenced by Scientology officials and Masterson, who claimed the rape never occurred and demanded they stay away from law enforcement. Actor and former Scientology member and now the most vocal and fierce critic of Scientology, Leah Remini, reacted to the verdict as a relief, and she has supported these 3 women throughout the trial.
Actress and famous ex-Scientologist Leah Remini tweeting after the verdict, expressing relief, adding, "The women who survived Danny Masterson's predation are heroes."
Leah Remini has showed up at this trial several times to be there as a support person for a couple of the women. She's kind of been with them throughout all of this.
In a statement this evening, the Church of Scientology said the church was not a party to this case and religion did not belong in this proceeding.
A lot of people who have escaped Scientology have said that this case, of course, while being very meaningful for the victims, is also meaningful for people who've escaped Scientology because Scientologists have had sort of a stranglehold on the prosecution of their members in protecting them and preventing them, their victims, from getting justice. So this is coming 20 years too late, but it is a step forward in, holding people accountable, famous people accountable, powerful people accountable. Jackson?
I think that, it's especially important whenever there's famous and powerful people who engage in these types of behaviors to be held accountable, and especially in a public manner, because it really often goes over people's heads because things aren't brought to light often. How many women go through different types of sexual assault situations in a variety of ways, and how common that is, and how a lot of women and girls that we all know, who you may never know because they may never come out for so many reasons. I mean, this is a good example of it. 20 years later,
and there's some type of remnant of vindication. But and two, just to really think about it as a man, how important it is to, if you know anybody, any men who engage in any type of inappropriate behavior like this, how important it is to call them out in any type of way that you can. Because I mean, just as a man thinking about how that's one of the most disgusting things that you can do to a person. It really is, because I mean, we can say what we want, but most men are just strong enough to where like there's really not much a woman can do, especially if you're bigger. And especially me as a bigger man who's bigger than most other men who would never even do that. It's just disgusting. You know what I'm saying? So I think, again, accountability is incredibly important. And it's just one of the things that when people do get brought to light for doing this type of behavior, like your respect for them just goes to hell, basically, because it's just, I mean, and women got to carry it around with them for the rest of their lives, you know? So it's, it's trash.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my thoughts are with the victims. Hopefully this can give them some sort of peace. Although, like you said, of course, this is something they're going to carry around with them for the rest of their lives. But hopefully now the stain of having done this is something that Danny Masterson has to carry around for the rest of his life as well. So we have to go to a break, but stick around because we've got more watch lists coming up after this.
All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping. An amazing power panel. Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong. We spun a revolution. Yes, another one. Aren't you excited? Wow. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody. Yay!
You know, this is where it started in a lot of ways.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today. This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care. You don't see a lot of news coverage in the mainstream media of the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests that happened throughout the country.
Black Americans are hurting. Minorities in this country are hurting.
We always talk about starting from the bottom up, but the problem is the bottom up is always the least amount of power. No one cares about them, and until someone actually cares about them, then we'll do something about it.
Please, for God's sake, America, understand, acknowledge, and work towards getting to a new reality where Black lives actually matter.
Welcome back to the watch list. I'm Rayyvana filling in for J.R. Jackson, joined today by the one and the only Jackson White. But the
one and the only.
But now let's get into some of your comments, read what you all have to say. And let's start by kicking it off with the TYT members section, which is a good opportunity to remind you all to join tyt.com/join and become a member. Ian says, an Iraqi reporter threw a shoe at Bush. Maybe American reporters should throw spoons at Desantis.
Yes.
You know what?
that just puts so many ideas, and I know probably even more in you because you're even. Yes, absolutely.
At least sporks, maybe. I don't know. That's what I used to eat pudding with when I was a kid. So
the little plastic sporks.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yeah.
And then over on Twitch, Paper Dragon said DeSantis is like the definition of a beta boy. Love that. Paper Dragon also said, "Hey Ray, how are you? I'm good. Thanks for asking." Chris Huggy said, "Hey Ray, happy Pride." Oh well, thank you for the happy Pride to you as well, Chris Huggy. And then let's go over to YouTube. The Crucial One says, "Rayyvana looking good today. Happy Pride Month, my sister. Thank you very much." And then Colin Hutton said in a super chat, "Rayyvana plus Jackson equals Ray J."
Okay, I ain't mad at that at all. That's decent. That's extra decent. I like almost cursed right there, but I caught myself. I almost said I F with that, but I caught myself.
You caught yourself, so that's good. Don't need to edit anything out now.
Nope, we good.
All right, Jackson, are you ready to get into this next story?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, I love this next story. It's maybe the most ridiculous thing I've seen. Of course, there's been a lot of insanity leading up to Pride Month, but let's all sit back and watch this.
So I'm grieving. It's lunchtime. I'm here with Aubrey, and we really wanted some Chick-Fil-A, but because they decided to hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion corporate position, and also bow down to the woke lords because of their ESG scores, and also I found out, do you know this? Their chicken is funded by BlackRock and Vanguard.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, their farms. They use Tyson and this other farm. BlackRock and Vanguard funded chicken. Chick-Fil-A, you are no longer the Lord's chicken. You're actually the woke chicken, and I'm really upset about it as a Christian woman. All we wanted was some good fried chicken. So now we're gonna go to Cane's. We're gonna try it out. This is really difficult because there's a Chick-fil-A across the street. I'm now eating chicken fingers instead of chicken nuggets. I know, first world Christian woman problems. No one will ever understand the love that I had for Chick-fil-A. I got my sweet tea with a lemon, and you know, we're taking this boycott Chick-fil-A thing seriously, and it's really difficult. I got a 4-finger box combo, extra fries, crispy cane sauce.
I'm begging conservatives to have a real problem. Have one real problem. If the biggest problem in your life is that you have to eat the Caniac combo, you don't have real problems. I'm sorry. That's so insane. You're doing 10 Hail Marys over your soaking wet Cane's bread. Like,
and she got time. She got time too. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But so conservatives have moved on from their last target, which was Target, and now this week is Chick-fil-A. They found out that the company has hired a diversity, equity, and inclusion manager, and they are in a tizzy about it. So that this Chick-fil-A sparks anti-woke outrage for VP of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion post. After they were enjoying having Chick-fil-A as the one apparently anti-woke Christian chicken, Jesus ordained chicken itself, because they were, notoriously opposing same-sex marriage. But what's ironic about this is that this hire happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and they've just been tuned out for the past 2 years. But of course, with this, ramping up of anti-LGBTQ outrage, Chick-fil-A wasn't spared. Now, according to the New York Post, the Atlanta-based company named Eric McReynolds to the post of VP of DEI again 2 years ago. But social media users took note of it in recent days, igniting angry denunciations on Twitter from conservatives who allege that the firm has gone woke. So, I'll bring you in here for a second. It's just ridiculous. It was 2 years ago they hired this person, and all of a sudden, that woman's probably been eating, apparently she's been eating Chick-fil-A for lunch every day for 2 years. She's been eating woke chicken. She's gonna have to confess her sins, apparently.
Right, she gonna have to stay up in that Catholic booth, in that confession box, you know what I'm saying? She's like, I thought the chicken was being made in holy water, but apparently it was a scam. But you know what, it always kills me, because conservatives, it's like, you could be like, everyone's gathered around the campfire and we're talking about our problems, like, I really want to send my daughter to Yale. She got the grades, but we can't quite afford it. And I can't afford to send my son to the hospital, and my rent keeps going up. And then conservatives are like, the gay people, the gays, the gays. Like, and it's just like, for the most part, it's if you really have a problem with like drag shows, for instance, like, I mean, I live up in New York, you know what I'm saying? Where something like that is very acceptable, but I don't see them because I don't go to them. And it's not because I'm against them. I just haven't gone any time lately. You know what I'm saying? So that's all you have to do. Just don't go to drag shows. Or, you know, like if you go to Target, like you can't handle seeing a rainbow. Like, what would you do if you see a rainbow in real life? Just like, you just start melting. You know what I'm saying? Like just start falling apart like a vampire. But, you know, like you pointed out, we have real issues. And unfortunately, these people aren't kidding. I mean, you know, could be an example of people who may do stuff like that on social media who are being satirical. But a lot of these people, they're not kidding. Like they're seriously not kidding. Like that outrage over the Bud Light brand. I don't even remember the person's name who was on the can because it's not an issue that matters. Bud Light does branding campaigns with people all the time. Who cares? But Republicans care. So unfortunately, this is what we got to deal with in this country.
Right. And speaking of people who genuinely are caring about this stuff and not being satirical, let's check out the guy who brought to the public's attention that this VP slot was filled again 2 years ago. But here's the tweet that popularized this hate towards Chick-fil-A now by Joey Manarino, who said, "We have a problem. Chick-fil-A just hired a VP of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is bad, very bad. I don't want to have to boycott. Are we going to have to boycott?" And then he didn't hold back his outrages. He tweeted this follow-up, which contains a slur, but it says it's only a matter of time until they start putting, and he uses a slur for trans people in the frosted lemonade at this point. You can fill in the gap with your imagination. I don't think I need to explain to you exactly what he was trying to say. I think you can get the gist of it. But I mean, this is someone who's being serious. It's absolutely unhinged. And then
this is bad. This is very, very bad.
He's losing his mind. And then he conducted a poll about whether Chick-fil-A should be boycotted, which he lost.
You're right. People was like, nah, bro. I still like Chick-fil-A. Because again, this is the things that normies just don't pay attention to. Like, I just want a chicken sandwich. I'm hungry.
Right. As a gay person, I didn't care. I didn't care before. I like Chick-fil-A. I want a
sandwich. I want a sandwich. You feel me? Like, yeah.
Right. But of course, this right wing, this outrage is really funny. They're blowing it out of proportion. Just quickly, I know we got to move on, but I want to pull up some of these memes because, I mean, look at this. How could you, Chick-fil-A? And it's Carl from Walking Dead with a pride flag and a BLM fist on his cheek. What is this? Who's making these?
I thought his eyeball was like oozing a rainbow or something.
It's just insane. It's just, and then this last one I think is really good. From Dave on Twitter said, "Move over, Target. It's time for Chick-fil-A to get canceled." And it's the meme with the MAGA hat, and they're replacing the Target chip with the Chick-fil-A chip. It's great. It's just great. We got to move on. But do you have any last thoughts on this outrage?
Well, I mean, given that it is the beginning of Pride Month, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of hatred. But at the same time, we're going to have plenty of funny content to cover because the Republicans, they're going to keep losing their minds over absolutely nothing. What was it? Some like rapper or something up in Target or something like that, Christian rapper.
The worst music video I've ever seen. The most heinous outfits in a music video I've ever seen.
I haven't watched it yet. Maybe I'll check it out after this. But yeah, no, we got a whole lot left of that coming. Well, for the rest of the year, certainly. But for the rest of the month, extra. So yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to this next story, which is, it's shocking and really sad and messed up. And I wish I had more information on it, but let's just dive into it.
Anything to say?
Oh, well, your name.
Now, that teenager that you saw grinning is being arrested for killing and eating a New York town's beloved swan and stealing its babies. Now, NBC News has some more details on this disturbing crime, but just as a warning, they are discussing animal abuse.
Police say the 3 teenagers jumped the fence here at the Swan Pond enclosure in between midnight and 3 a.m. on Memorial Day. Their investigation revealing the teenagers aged 16, 17, and 18 held down Faye while she was nesting and killed her on site. Police believe the teenagers then stole the 4 baby swans and left with Faye. The boys then returned home with the swan, where according to authorities, the family ate the swan on Memorial Day. According to police, the teens thought that they were hunting and that Faye was not a swan, but a large duck.
They believed that it was just a very large duck. They did not know that it was a swan, and they did not know that it was not a wild animal, that it was actually owned by the village families.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm not buying that for a second.
Right.
Why are we taking the teen's word for it that he believed it was a duck? How could you look at that swan and think it was a duck?
Well, how does that make it better?
Right.
I thought it was a duck. That's why I jumped over it and just ate it like a caveman. That was quite strange. I was asking, did he do it for social media? Was it like he filming himself or something?
I don't know. There's not enough details. But one detail we do have, fortunately, is that according to the police, the baby swans were unharmed and they're going to be taken care of by a biologist until they can be released.
Well, at least
right now he's taking care of the 4 cygnets. He will take care of those probably for another 6 weeks because they're not ready to be put back into the pond yet to live on their own.
As for the father swan, Manny, his days at this pond will also be numbered. After losing a mate, he could become aggressive when the babies are reintroduced to the pond. A biologist working with the swans will also work with local leaders on finding a new home for Manny.
According to AP News, 3 teenagers were arrested Tuesday on charges including grand larceny, criminal mischief, and trespassing in connection with the swan napping. 2 of the suspects, aged 16 and 17, were released to their parents because they are juveniles. Police said the third, who is 18, is awaiting arraignment. Now, this is horrifying, but the fact that he was smiling like that, I feel like that's evidence enough that the police shouldn't just be taking his word for it that they thought it was a duck. And like you said, Jackson, how is that better? How is it better?
Right. I don't know how that makes it better at all. Like eating any type of animal, like just live and raw, like if you didn't go to the store, even if you went hunting or something, at least there's that. Like I went deer hunting and ate the meat. Like at least that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think, he was smiling because he's a kid and he's dumb and he was feeling uncomfortable too. But like, what an embarrassing thing to have on your record and to have to communicate to people. Like, I heard your son got arrested. Like, yeah, like, and they're trying to goad you to tell them more. I'm like, yeah, he got arrested. Let's just leave it at that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you tell people that went down? But yeah, this is a very strange story, but if you can imagine that somebody out here is doing it, people be crazy.
Right. And speaking of crazy people doing random crime, let's dive into this next story. Let's go ahead and let's watch this.
Sir, for what reason? For what reason? For what reason did you take my wig off? Because what made you think that was the good thing to do?
No,
what made you think that was the good thing to do?
Please.
For what? For what? Why did you do that? What makes you think that that's okay? Is that funny? Is that funny?
Apologize.
You don't even know me.
No.
Do you hate women or something? Why did you take my wig off and keep walking?
There's no reason.
For what, sir? Why?
Can you just leave?
Why?
Just say it.
Why did you take my wig off and just walk away?
Please.
Because what? Why?
Please.
Nah, have a nice one. Have a nice day. You're nice as him. He needs somebody to beat his ass.
A New York City woman is speaking out after a completely random stranger snatched her wig while walking down the street. Now, the alleged assaulter has received some karma. But first, let's hear from the woman, Lizzie Ashley, as to why this event was so painful.
I just got home. I'm safe.
But look at this. If you pull the wig, it looks like it's gonna come off, right? And then it gets stuck because it has combs in it. So he ended up pulling my hair. In order to officially take it off, you have to then yank down and then try your best. It's still not coming off. He dead pulled my whole wig off. Like,
so for anyone who is thinking, oh, this is just a drunk guy who thought it would be funny or, accidentally grabbed her wig. No, he had to pull and yank to get it off her head. This was an assault. And luckily it didn't take long for internet sleuths to track down the culprit. And his job title might surprise you.
And keep walking.
Hello, Anthony Ulrich of New York City. As a lawyer, I hope I don't have to explain this to you, but what you did is called assault. Keep your hands to yourself. Don't go around pulling wigs off random people in the street. To the victim, I'm sorry this happened to you, and if you plan on pressing charges, this is the person's name.
I'll be honest, as someone who has a law degree, it doesn't surprise me that he's a lawyer because lawyers are some of the worst people I've ever met in my life. And it's shocking to me the beliefs people can hold and the things they can do and still become attorneys. But that being said, the woman in the video, Ashley, says she's filed a complaint with the New York Police Department, and it appears that the alleged assaulter no longer has a job, according to his law firm's LinkedIn page. They posted, "We have been made aware of a video of a non-work related incident involving one of our associates circulating on social media. We take seriously any inappropriate behavior by any employee, whether inside or outside the workplace. This associate is no longer with the firm." Now, Jackson, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I'm usually someone who's sort of reticent to say, I'm glad someone got fired for, a video of them. But in this case, I mean, this is just, he assaulted her. I think he absolutely deserved to lose his job over that.
Well, yeah, I mean, not only that, but it's also embarrassing for the company to, have to be employed with somebody like him. But I mean, even not knowing him, he just kind of strikes me as one of those guys that's generally unlikable, and is kind of known for it. Like, he's just one of those guys who comes around and he's just like, he'll just do something that'll trigger people, and he's just like, what? And then like somebody punches him, and then he's on the ground like, whoa, and he's still on the ground like that. Like, he's just like a big doof, and that's just kind of how his life has gone, and it'll probably likely continue to go that way. So this is just kind of a cause and effect type of thing. I mean, if he didn't do that, then he wouldn't have gotten fired. He's an adult, so there's really no reason to have any sympathy for him at all. But he just kind of strikes me as that type of a guy who's just, he can't help but not be liked, because that's the only way he gets attention. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Is people hate him. People only pay attention to me if they're mad at me. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, he definitely looks like someone who doesn't expect to see consequences for his actions. So I'm glad to see that in this case, he did actually have consequences.
He looks like Michael Knowles. That's who he looks like.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I was trying to remember what his first name was, but yeah, that's what he looks like. And Michael Knowles kind of seems like the same type of guy.
Yeah.
Like, he just like, he'll come around a group and then he'll slowly notice that he's not like the center of attention. And then he'll go back home and make a podcast about how everybody who isn't exactly like him sucks and should be wiped out.
All right, with that, we've got to take our second break, but stick around because we've got more watch lists coming up after this.
All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping. An amazing power panel. Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
It's like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We start a revolution. Yes, another one. Aren't you excited? Wow. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody. Yay!
You know, this is where it started in a lot of ways.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We got to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right. They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care. You don't see a lot of news coverage in the mainstream media of the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests that happened throughout the country.
Black Americans are hurting. Minorities in this country are hurting.
We always talk about starting from the bottom up, but the problem is the bottom up is always the least amount of power. No one cares about them, and until someone actually cares about them, then we'll do something about it.
Please, for God's sake, America, understand, acknowledge, and work towards getting to a new reality where Black lives actually matter.
Welcome back to the watch list. I'm Ray filling in for JR Jackson, and I'm joined by Jackson White. As I said earlier, the one and the only.
The one and the only, don't forget it.
Let's take a look at what some of you are saying right now, and let's head on over to the TYT members section. Just a reminder for everyone watching, if you're not a member yet, tyt.com/join. Trump's lady lumps. Sorry. Okay.
He thick too, ain't he though? Got a nice little cushion back there.
Nick Trump says, let's hope those baby geese grow up to seek revenge on those people and foul them up. Nice. That story really, like, when I read it the first time this morning, I was like, what the hell?
Right.
Why would anybody do something like, I can't even fathom having read it several
disgusting.
times.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And then let's head on over to Twitch. Ellis Troy says GOP will hire him and give him cash, referring to the lawyer who snatched the woman's wig off.
Right, they'll make some type of example out of him, like the woke left trying to cancel everybody.
Right. They'll definitely try to make it a thing like, oh, well, maybe she shouldn't have been wearing such a big wig in public or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hogwarts Demo Dragon, I tried, says, well, there's karma. He'll have to explain why when he gets an interview for the next job. Exactly. With his name out there now, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Mm-hmm. And then Owen the Schmoopy Dragon says his white privilege didn't expect her to confront him and it made him uncomfortable. Right. That on top of, I think he is very visibly drunk and just a little bit out of his mind in that video too. Not that he shouldn't be held accountable for his actions. He absolutely should, but
there is that too though.
Yeah. And then over on YouTube, Christina Elisa Brown says Jackson with a bunch of heart smiley faces.
Oh, Christina, what's up? What's popping? Yeah, she always showing love. Appreciate you.
And then Woke Dragon says, referring to the lawyer, crypto bro hoping his Bitcoin will pay off before rent is due.
It's too late. It's too late. And Binance, they next. You know what I'm saying? So get your money out now.
All right, let's jump into this next story, and I need everybody to go ahead and watch this.
Inside Georgia Ballistics, you have guns, ammo, and John Waldman.
I opened the shop in March of 2021.
A business which is pandemic proof.
I didn't want to get locked down anymore.
Gun sales have spiked since the pandemic, so has mass shootings.
The fact that it keeps being kids after kids after kids, that's the thing for me.
2023 on pace to be a record year.
There's not a way to cast a huge net. There's not a magical and it's fixed. There's not. It's one of those where the community has to come together, both sides.
This Georgia gun dealer named John Waldman is closing shop up at his store. And the reason is the fact that he won't sell guns that may be used to target kids. So he's foregoing massive profits because he doesn't want to be a part of an industry that's killing children in mass shootings. Now let's take a look at some more from this story.
Waldman believes he's doing his part.
You never see it.
Until now, in Duluth, this might be a first in Georgia.
I just can't sell items like this to people.
Closing his gun shop.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't be armed. I'm just saying that I can't sell something that could be used.
Something like this.
This is an H car, chambered in 30-06.
It's legal if you pass the background check.
Just because you pass that doesn't mean you should have it.
As for what goes in it.
So these are armor-piercing 30-06 rounds, 500 of them. And you can get a gun that just, you put it in, rack it, and it doesn't stop until this is empty. The issue is that there's no training.
As a father?
What stops this from being used against my kid? And that's the problem I have. Because you never know the person getting it.
Now, Waldman explains in details here why he just can't continue to sell guns. Speaking to 11 Alive News, they reported that Waldman said he believes the key issue is the lack of training. He admitted too many children are getting their hands on guns, but described it as, I think we have a kid problem with guns rather than a gun problem with kids. He said there's not one clear answer to solve the problem we're seeing across the country. But I mean, I think this is a step in the right direction. Arms dealers are able to recognize that they do have a role to play in stopping gun crime, then that's a positive change. And like the story mentioned in the beginning, that gun sales are on the rise and have been rising since the pandemic. And he's choosing not to cash in massively as he could be right now, but to close shop out of concern with school shootings. Jackson, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that, well, first and foremost, it's his right to make this decision to do that or not in the first place. So, I think if anybody raises a fuss about it, then it's incredibly political. While the irony of that being that somehow all of these shootings aren't political. If they raise a fuss about it, then it's political. But also, it's very important that culturally we push the lever. Because when it comes to legislation, it's going to be very hard to pass anything. Whatever the last bill was, I can't remember the name of it exactly. But in the bill that got passed under the Biden administration, we didn't even get the minimum age raised to 21. We didn't get anything significant with background checks. We didn't get anything significant with waiting periods. Because we got it passed, they'll be like, well, we already passed something, and so it didn't work. So what's the point of trying again? You look at Texas, who just passed a bill that basically requires every single public school in the state to have an armed guard there. I think that's 8,126 schools within 1,022 districts, if I can recall correctly. But they can't raise the minimum age to 21. Who continues to make money? Obviously, the gun manufacturers, the people like him who's shutting down his gun store. And obviously, no matter what the move is made, it's always the manufacturers of the guns who, we got to make sure that the dollars keep rolling in. But, before we can get to legislation passing or further legislation passing, we have to push the needle on the cultural side harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really disturbing that Texas is going to fund to have armed guards in every single school when every single school doesn't have algebra teachers. Every single school doesn't have literacy teachers, literacy instructors. They don't have social workers, but they can have an armed guard. And I remember a few months back, I covered a story with Dr. Ritchie on his show about an armed guard in a school who was teaching a class to students on gun safety when he shot a kid. He shot a kid in the school. So I don't think the solution to this is to have guns in every school. especially when we know that that's not an effective way to combat gun crime. I mean, it's sad, it's disturbing.
Yeah. A lot of resources. And again, for somebody who's committed public suicide as it is, that's not going to stop them from running up in there. So, yeah.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Let's move on to this next story and let's turn our attention towards Yellowstone.
This morning, a close encounter and close call in Yellowstone National Park. Watch as this woman poses for a photo trying to touch a wild bison when it lunges for her as if preparing to charge. That woman rushing away, tripping, as thankfully the bison stays back. It's part of what wildlife experts warn is a dangerous pattern at national parks.
Well, what we see in this footage is just another example where people are losing their fear and, more importantly, their respect for powerful animals.
You dumbass.
Yeah, for real.
You got what you deserve. Every year, there are tourists at Yellowstone National Park who decide to play their own version of the Darwin Awards. Luckily, this visitor walked away unscathed. And somehow, so did this woman who spent several unbothered minutes trying to get the perfect selfie with a bison.
佢睇見啲紅色啲牛佢最易發嬲就係啲紅色嘅。呢啲好老啦，呢個。
Jesus Christ. And these tourists managed to get their selfies without consequences. Others in the past have not been so lucky.
Yellowstone officials say there are usually multiple bison attacks each year. These creatures can weigh 2,000 pounds and run 35 miles an hour, easily tossing a human like a rag doll.
Oh, no. Oh.
Last year, this Texas woman trying to sneak by a bison was gored in the back, spending 6 days in the hospital.
I'm sorry, the sound of that person running away from the bison really got me. You're so dumb. You're so dumb.
Yeah, man. I mean, bison are just so massive. And like I was saying, I mean, even if you stand next to like a horse, like it don't even got to be a Clydesdale or nothing. It could just be a regular horse, and you just like respect, like, yo, this thing is big and clearly much more powerful, physically powerful of a creature than me. So I mean, just that alone, I wouldn't go anywhere near anything like that. Anything wild that's large, I'm not going anywhere near it. So I mean, but I guess you know what they say about common sense not being quite available out here.
Right, and you've got a whole lot more common sense than the people who are being featured on the Instagram account, Torons of Yellowstone, which documents this special breed of visitor. I mean, look at them right there. I mean, you're just waiting for the water to come out. The post is today was the first time in Yellowstone for my husband and I. We were visiting from Australia. I couldn't believe it, but yes, I saw Torons with my own eyes. People taking photos off the boardwalk and next to the hot spring. At one point,
they like kill you?
Yeah, at one point the guys were pretending to warm their hands with the steam. Unfortunately, it was not quick enough or close enough to capture. Here's another one: a guy taking a close-up of a bison surrounded by bison. This Toron got lucky. This bison is still pretty young. If it was an older bull, he would have most likely been knocked into Timbuktu. Even a female bison could kick his arse. Please keep at least 25 yards from these bison. There's absolutely no reason to be this close. Do you really need a pick up into bison nostrils? The Toron's license plate was sent over to the park along with this video. Especially, he's holding a real camera. Just use the zoom feature, sir. But bisons aren't the only wild animals that city slicker tourists should be wary of. Last month, a few drunken tourists in Big Sky, Montana learned, and I can't believe this was a lesson they needed to learn, but they learned not to mess with moose.
Get the away from it, you idiots.
Let it be wild. Don't have to like.
Jesus Fucking Christ, you guys must be the dumbest people I've ever met in my life.
Go ahead, touch it.
Go ahead, try. Go ahead, try. See what happens. See what the happens.
See how long that leg will go.
Get the away from the moose.
You're wishing it would hit me right now.
Yeah, I am.
Me and Poppy might hit both of you guys. No problem.
A little closer.
If you lose them.
A little closer.
Go on.
You guys are idiots.
Get him.
Yeah, get him.
Yes.
Get him. Get him.
All I could say is they got what they deserved.
Yeah, and moose are like 8 feet tall at the shoulder. But even on the bison, it ain't no. Not only do you not need to be in a bison's face, there's no point of being in a person's face unless it's like a sexual situation or something. Then there's like literally no need to be that close to a person, let alone a monstrous creature that isn't a human and knows that. So, you know, but hey, you know, you got to learn the hard way sometimes.
Well, thanks for joining me today, Jackson. Everybody check out Jackson's videos on Rebel HQ. That's all the time we have today for the watch list. But don't forget to stick around because the main show's coming up next, and be back same time, same place tomorrow for more watch lists on TYT.